Boker Tov, everyone. Shalom. It's Rabbi Eric Solomon again, Raleigh, North Carolina, with some morning Torah. This morning, we've been talking all week more or less about the Torah portion of the week, Vayikra, Leviticus. We talked a bit about the new moon, a new month of Nisan here in the Jewish tradition as we approach Passover. But this morning, I want to talk to you in preparation for Shabbat. Hopefully a message of some inspiration, something to give you uplift as Shabbat comes. And I want to pull it today, and you're going to be hearing more about this from others as well, but from me, about the story of Viktor Frankl and what Torah he can teach us, what wisdom he can offer us during this crisis of COVID-19. So Viktor Frankl, many of you may have heard his name, but for those of you that are unfamiliar, Viktor Frankl was an Austrian Jew who was a great psychiatrist and great teacher of psychology and a person with great insight and wisdom who, tragically, with his newlywed wife, his parents and several other relatives, including his sister, were all pre-Holocaust, pre-Shoah, were brought to concentration camps, including Auschwitz, and ultimately, sadly, all were murdered, except for him and I believe his sister, who survived. So his own wife was killed. He survived, so to speak, through labor camps and was able eventually to be liberated. He developed over time, his experiences in the camps helped him develop a type of psychology or approach to therapy called logotherapy. And those who are in this field will know much better than me, but from word of his book, and his famous book, I think, is Man's Search for Meaning, essentially what he says is that, everything can be taken away from a person, everything, except for a person's response. And he experienced that personally. The Nazis took everything from him, his livelihood, his family, his ability to control his life, but then they could not control his response to the tragedy and his ability to make meaning out of suffering. And that became his focus and dealing with later in life as he helped to guide students, write books, and have patients as well, is to help them build meaning in crisis. And so I want to offer what I think he's telling it to us today is in this current crisis, as our own county here in Wake County in Raleigh, North Carolina, it was announced that we should shelter in place starting today, where we're going to begin the process, which many other parts of the country have already started. We're really feeling the crisis most acutely. It's no longer something happening over there or just some limitations. Certainly we're feeling it, but now it's become acute. And it feels like everything is being taken away from us. Our social interaction, our ability to engage normally, increased anxiety, social distancing. The idea that this disease is out there, could we get it? We're in crisis. We're under enormous stress. There's no question. And everything's being taken from us. A lot of things being taken from us. Thank God not everything, but a lot of things. For the sake of a greater good, of course, but still. And so the question is, what's held in our hands? In a sense, the way I would put the language, what has God given us in this moment? And the truth is, God has given us the power, in the language of Viktor Frankl, to control our response. How are we going to rise up to this occasion? Are we going to break the rules? Are we going to think selfishly? I was reading some Israeli articles this morning in Israeli news, specifically from medical professionals, saying things like, Passover's coming. It's the holiday par excellence of guests, of having family over. Particularly if you're a certain age, you can invite your parents over. It's the time to sit in the Jewish community together with family and friends. But the mitzvah, usually the commandment, is to welcome guests, to open the door. All who are hungry come and eat. But this year, it's the opposite. It's the saving of lives means essentially don't invite guests. Don't invite elderly relatives in particular. Don't invite your parents. The way to do the mitzvah of honoring your parents this Passover is by not inviting them to sit with you. It doesn't mean you can't do it over Zoom and over Facebook, other various technologies. Of course, please God, I think you should. In fact, I think the mitzvah is to definitely do that with it and with others, but not in person. But in this moment of crisis, it's easy to respond without thinking carefully, without thinking it through, and to go back to our kind of mammalian instincts of fight or flight, which is natural. So let's bring this to Shabbat. Shabbat is that pause, can be that time where we can take some breaths, we can reflect on the fact that things are challenging, and not respond with fight or flight, but actually to rise above that, if we can, to reflect on how we want to respond, and then go into the week ready to respond thoughtfully and at our highest. So I want to invite you this Shabbat, those of you that practice traditional practice, and those that may want to experiment, maybe even the people who are not Jewish who'd say, I'll take the idea on other day, maybe Sunday is your Sabbath, or Friday is your Sabbath. But taking this time to perhaps tone down the technology, perhaps put down, the phone and other things possibly, at least for some period of time, or to limit it, and to spend time reflecting on how do I want to respond in this moment? What can I do to bring holiness into this world in this time? What can I do to contribute to greater safety and to the saving of lives, pikuach nefesh? And God forbid, what can I do to hold down my own selfishness and fear so it doesn't grab control of me? Because as Viktor Frankl says, everything can be taken away from a person except for a person's response. That God has placed in our hands. So this Shabbat, I offer you the Torah of Viktor Frankl, offered from someone who went through true hell. And I'm praying for you, my family. When we light candles this Shabbat particularly, we'll be holding you in our hearts. Those of you in the Beth Mar community, we will be offering this together, lighting candles again, making Kiddush together here with the Solomons. We hope you'll join us. And give you time, please God, to reflect on the power that's in our hands to respond with holiness. Wishing all a Shabbat Shalom. Please God, a sweet Shabbat, a safe and healthy Shabbat. And we'll be in touch next week. Shabbat Shalom.